New Year, Team Bold. My name is Kevin Oduor. I am back in Nairobi after a week long in the rural areas of Siaya County. I have a question. President William Samoei Ruto is blaming Uhuru Kenyatta for his 3 months failure to lower the cost of living. And so who is to blame? This is the bold analysis. In this first episode, back in Nairobi, in my studio, I want us to delve deep on confusion and dilemma under William Ruto after ending the subsidy programs that were initiated by Uhuru Muigai Kenyatta, who was the former president. And to make you have a glimpse of our podcast today, I want you to watch this soundbite from President while speaking in Mombasa.
Napenda kuwauliza nyote kwamba sisi tumekula kiapo. Na tumekula kiapo kusema ukweli na kuendesha mambo ya taifa letu la Kenya kulingana na katiba na sheria ya taifa letu. Na kwa sababu hiyo, kuna maamuzi ambayo ni lazima tuyafanye. Maamuzi ambayo kwa kawaida pengine sio maamuzi ambayo ni popular katika ile ambayo inasemekana. And I want to say this very categorically, that as president and as leaders, we are going to make the decisions that are necessary for us to make progress as a nation. When I came in the office, I had to make difficult decisions about our economy because we were not doing well, and we need to change the foundation of our economy. I found that there were decisions that were made for political expediency for that time because we had an election. And the decisions about some subsidies in unga, subsidies in fuel, subsidies in electricity, that were not informed by the science of our economy, but were informed by the expediency of the political moment that existed at that time. We've had to do away with those subsidies because otherwise they would cost our economy big time. We would be spending close to 25 billion shillings every month to subsidize some of the projects or programs that were set out. We did away with those subsidies in August, and I am happy that we have saved our economy huge amounts of money, and we are now well on the way to making sure that we invest in the areas that will drive our economy in a sustainable manner. Let me inform my good countrymen that we agreed that we are going to build this economy from bottom going up. And we have started that journey by making sure that our economy is founded on sound economic policies that will stand the test of time today, tomorrow, and the years to come. And that is why I am very confident that we have now laid the foundation that will take our economy away from dependence on debt to dependence on revenues that are raised by taxpayers in Kenya.
The irony in that statement is this. Ruto is saying that Uhuru Kenyatta, that there was projects that were started by Uhuru Kenyatta for political expediency. But again, the irony here is that even him, the promises he gave at the campaign trail were for political expediency. And that is why he's at a big dilemma between delivering the promise to Kenyans and serving political expediency. So the good example is the port, where after just making a political statement that I'm going to revert the port in Mombasa, just 2 months after that, reality dawned on him that we had to pay the Chinese loan and things are now being reverted. And in fact, when he was in Mombasa, he also spoke about the issue of Naivasha. I was seated in Summit Hotel. Summit Hotel is in Siaya, on your way to Awelo, those who know Siaya County, Siaya Town. And I was following this speech from that place, the eve of 1st December, January, why William Ruto was trying to display his track record within the last 3 months that they have been in power. But there was nothing tangible to be spoken about. That is why when I came back, I realized that Nation had, I think that was NTV, read a very interesting story that President Ruto broke from the tradition of previous presidents who normally try to steer clear of politics in their New Year messages and will try to make more of a projective speech. If you followed President Ruto's speech, the New Year speech, there's some few observations you can make there. That he was trying to defend himself. He was beat in a defensive position, a man who seemed to be guilty, that something is not going on right, and now has to explain, because I don't think that was the right platform to explain what really he thinks. Ruto is a hardcore capitalist who also is more determined to place the Bretton Woods institutions, that's the IMF and the World Banks and so on and so forth. But from that speech, you will understand from a point of view that even the person who wrote it, it was a deep speech that was well thought out. Instead of being projective, in fact, he went back to defend himself. Why I am doing this and not the other one. Now, there is something I want us to make here. That while talking about the subsidies, do you know that Kenya Kwanza under President William Ruto has borrowed 1 trillion within the first 3 months? 1 trillion borrowed within the first 3 months. That is compared to Uhuru Kenyatta's borrowing, which most of Kenya Kwanza team, not most Kenya Kwanza team campaigned against. Uhuru within the 10 years borrowed 6.7 trillion within 10 years tenure. Majority of that borrowing was done during COVID-19. But within 3 months, President Ruto has borrowed 1 trillion, which is it 10% of what Uhuru borrowed for 6 years, for 10 years? Let's look at the big thing, what Ruto is talking about, the subsidy. And I see where Ruto is coming from. From what I see, I have been analyzing on this issue of subsidies, and even now in social media, if you check in Twitter, there is a heated debate whether we need it or we don't need it, whether it's serving the purpose or not. Let me take you through the subsidies that have been dropped, and I want us to compare the subsidies that have been scrapped and what Kenya Kwanza have done so far that we can see. I want to show you what they have done so far and the subsidies that were removed. One, during COVID-19, the banks dropped transaction charges. Kenyans are transacting millions. At the same time, we also had subsidy on secondary school fees. That subsidy has been scrapped. And I was in the village. I also have a luxury of working around with some few girls, 5, 6, 7 girls there. These girls, we used to pay 20,000. We used to pay 10,000. Primary, public secondary school day. Now they are going to pay 20,000. So when that subsidy is removed, they are going to pay 20,000 from 10,000 parents. And I can tell you that when schools open, that's when people are going to catch up with these realities. That has been scrapped. Kazi Mtaani started with the 10 billion project. As Bethel was getting to phase, I think it ended somewhere in phase 5, it had scooped around 30 billion, 30 or 40 billion. Subsidy on fuel was introduced to cushion mwananchi from war in Ukraine that greatly affected the price of that commodity globally. This one was introduced in February last year when the war broke out in Ukraine. There is subsidy on electricity. That's why the cost of token iko juu was a temporary measure as the government rolled out major reforms at KPLC that was going to see a permanent drop in the cost of power. But to cushion, they decided to make it this way. There is Linda Mama, which was supporting women on delivery. We're going to deliver. And Pesa ya Wazee, Inua Jamii project. All this seems to have been scrapped. Not forgetting about one that Ruto is talking about. That is the Unga subsidy. So with all these subsidies that have been scrapped, I have seen a mistake, and that's why I think why that some people normally get the word Nabi. A mistake display that I have removed subsidies and now is saving the economy. And if you've removed subsidies and saved, so the point here is this. If you look at these subsidies, they were scooping billions. I totally agree. And we are all in consensus that maybe we were spending a lot of money in it. That's why we're even removing them. But after removing them, truth be told, Kenya Kwanza only has 2 projects scooping money. Mbili zinaonekana. One is fertilizer subsidy. So we've removed subsidy on school fees. Kazi Mtaani hakuna. We've refused to pay Pesa ya Wazee. We've refused to pay Linda Mama. And I know most of you can add into this list. The cost of power is due. But we've only done one subsidy with a very big English, which I totally agree with, that we are subsidizing production, not consumption. All the others were on consumption. Maybe. So even Pesa ya Wazee was consumption. We'll leave alone that. Linda Mama. This was a social protection initiative that any reasonable government would actually implement. Now, even if you had to remove all these subsidies, why that Linda Mama and Pesa Wazee? Okay, honestly, on that one, we literally didn't get it right. The other project that Kenya Kwanza have done is Hustler Fund, which by 30th January, people had borrowed 20 billion. We've given people 20 billion. They have not paid even half of that money. All we're doing is rolling out and doing praise and worships on some of these projects. So we've done like, how many subsidies? Dropped like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. This might have cost us. And so, Hustler Fund has really helped to some extent. True. So 20 billion for Hustler Fund, and I don't know how much for fertilizer. So the other money, we will try to ask a question. If you want to know we're in the middle of nowhere, I wanted to listen to this speech.
Wananchi wengi wananiuliza maswali kuhusu mambo ya chakula, na ni vizuri ni ajibu yale maswali. Ya kwanza ni kwamba njia mwafaka, the permanent solution towards matters of reducing our cost of food is not subsidy. It is to support our farmers to produce more food. Na ndio tumekubaliana ya kwamba mwaka huu tayari katika hapa Mombasa tuko na tani 1,200 ya mbolea ambayo itasaidia wakulima wetu kuanzia mwezi ujao. Vile mumesikia, tuko na mpango maalum. Tutaanza bwawa la kwanza katika ile program yetu ya private public partnership kuanzia mwezi wa 3 mwaka huu, ili tuweze kujenga mabwawa 100 za kwanza na 500 baadaye, kuhakikisha kwamba tunatega maji ya kutosha, tuna harvest maji ya kutosha, ndio tuweze kushughulika na matatizo ya maji ya matumizi nyumbani, maji ya mifugo zetu, na maji pia itatumika na wanyama, na vile vile maji itakayotumika na irrigation.
Now guys, you realize that I've picked that clip because ukisikia mwisho, listen to where the dam pledge is just evolving. We started with, we are going to build 100 dams. We've not started even the first dam. We're already talking about 500. We started with, we want a dam. After we want a dam, you're going to build 100 dams. After 100 dams, we're going to build 500. We're already talking about 500, and not even the first one has started, leave alone completing. Not even started. My second question is this. So, is Kenyan problem only defined by unga? In real sense, Uhuru Kenyatta subsidized unga. True that it was for political expediency. True. And if so, then how about the one for school fees? That was introduced during COVID. Was it also for political expediency? Let's just be honest with ourselves. How about the token? That one started in February. So was that also, and even if it was for politics, like it is inasaidia mwananchi. I don't know. See, inasaidia mwananchi. So I think we need to construct that we should not narrow down everything in the context of unga. There was an order to reduce the budget by 300 billion. And there are two questions that we've been asking. 437 projects that were started by Uhuru have been closed or now going to continue. And what is the impact of scrapping the subsidy, or rather the subsidy scrappings, and the 1 trillion borrowing? What is the impact? Because I saw the Messiah speech in Mombasa that, look here, we are fixing it. We've laid down the strategy. We've laid down the foundation. If we are scrapping subsidies so that we can fund ourselves, but alongside these subsidies, we are still borrowing. In fact, the borrowing is still high. So is even scrapping the subsidy helping us? Or if we are scrapping subsidies, then where are we taking that money? Because that again remains a very solid question. We've seen a very key aspect of borrowing. And if you're borrowing and you're also removing the subsidies, then what's the difference? In fact, you're not even showing sign of reducing the borrowing. Now, if you're saving from scrapping these subsidies, why can't you slow down the borrowing? The coherence, there seems to be incoherence in the two. If these subsidies are saving us economy, and in fact, one thing I believe is this, that's the biggest challenge that President Ruto might actually face, that Kenyans are not feeling those strategies. They don't feel it. That is why I am persuaded that Ruto's speech writer acted on an intelligence brief on how Kenyans are a bit dissatisfied by the way things are going on. That speech was well thought out. I saw a comment from a friend. I think it was a comment. Let me get that comment for you. It was a very interesting comment. I don't know. Yes, this is here. It's called Joe Muhammani. Nabi is implementing kalongolongo economics. Ile ya karate yapata potea. Hajui kule anaenda ama kule ametoka. Someone was reacting to some of the posts on this. I know that there have been another school of thought that Uhuru Kenyatta giving these subsidies, or rather using these subsidies, was going to pockets of a few, or you're giving 10 this side and again on the other side, people are getting billions from it. I've said this. If that is honestly the reason why they're being scrapped, then I can tell you that you're being lied to. Why? If that is it, then even William Ruto will still keep these subsidies and still do what President Ruto was doing. Interest President Uhuru was doing. If that is the main reason why we are removing them. Because another reason, apart from them being not sustainable, which I also agree, even though I don't have evidence, but they've also been another reason that they're going to people's pockets. And if that is the reason, then even this administration will still lobby for them to be retained. Kindly subscribe to our channel and click the notification bell and also like our video. Thank you very much for those who are supporting us. There are things that Ruto must look out for. And in real sense, he should map out priority areas. Map out priority areas, because if you look at Uhuru Kenyatta's side, Uhuru Kenyatta also got his misses and he had the big ambition, but he was more into talking about what the people really feel. And if there is something that needs to be done, you can't just scrap everything. Even if you scrap for unga, but leave the other one for school fees. So that yule mama, and school fees, when school fees is down, at least it's controlled. But now, if all of your earning goes to school fees, then what do you remain to spend in that economy? Number two, scientific, and I normally call it elite economics, might hurt the population. What is the hurry with fixing the economy as you want, but Kenyans are suffering? I don't appreciate this aspect that it will take us pain, but we'll fix it. So do you want, like Pastor was said, do you want this Wazes to die as you fix the economy? You know, Linda Mama, this is something that was helping women wakenda kudeliver when they went for maternity services. So if that Linda Mama project is stalled, how many women are going to suffer as we try to fix the economy? So as elite guys sit in the boardroom and decide what is being done in the interest of the economy, it should not hurt the population. Social protection services, I once analyzed last year, why are we withdrawing services from the people? We should not withdraw services from the people in the altar of fixing the economy. If you ask me, 3 should remain. In fact, 4. The subsidy on school fees, the subsidy on the subsidy on electricity, and I'll look at that, and the 2, Linda Mama and Pesa Waze. Those ones should remain. The other aspect is the Trump moment is waiting for President Ruto. Trump took better part of his time to undo or suspend what Obama did. And when people went to the election, he's the one who was suspended. So it should be well thought out. And that's why I believe that that speech that Ruto read, that speech was out of an intelligence belief that things are not fine. And that's why he found himself in a situation of now playing blame games. That's my take.